noises. I won't say what sort of noises. But Roger's having to do quite a bit of work editing it out and having a sort of consistent product for us to put on YouTube. So once we do go to the questions, Roger and I will sort of manage it if you want to like raise the hand or type it within chat, and then we'll open it up. That just makes it simpler for us going forward. So I'd like to welcome Mike Barbee from Columbus, Ohio. And this is our first session that's being led by someone out with the UK. Mike and I met for the first time at Top Gun back in 2013. He's always been really enthusiastic, very helpful, always chatty, and sort of pushes the envelope with the aircraft that he has. He speaks very passionately about everything. So we've got a mix of videos and live session. You can see him there in his shop. He's got his buddy Carl there doing the filming tonight as well. So we'll have some video of the King Air, some background on it, and then we get up and personal with it in his workshop. So over to Mike.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, however it is all across the world for everybody viewing this. Welcome to the Monster Hangar. If you watch a YouTube video here or there, you've seen me here in the hangar. I've got quite a few projects going, but I'm going to alert everybody that all this is going to be cleared out by the end of next month so I can start my full-scale airplane project. So, and we'll get into that later, but I'm glad everybody's here, and we'll talk about the King Air. We'll talk about some of the control functions and the engines and all that. And I think right now we're going to show a short video of the shop, correct?
That's me. I hadn't unmuted myself. Yeah, a short video of the test flight.
Yes. Okay, let's look at those and then we'll go back to me.
Yeah. Okay, over to Roger.
Let's watch it.
Oh, let's switch it back. Okay, so we can, let's see. Oh, that's awesome. There. This is the test flight at Muncie. And that is my good friend Frank Knoll. And if you'll notice on the startup of this, we have a start of the right engine and then the left engine. And that is part of the Contronics control unit. They program that for me and I operate that from the radio. This was the very first flight of the airplane. We had done some function checks and some control checks and everything, so we were pretty assured that we're going to be successful. As you'll notice, I go ahead and paint the whole airplane and get it all ready for the contest. So it's totally finished by the time I do my test flights normally.
What's up, Rob?
And you see, this is the AMA flying site at Muncie. This is flight field 3, and it's the radio control flight field with the longest runway. There's a beautiful flying field right behind us from where we're standing.
Yeah, I'm just watching the King Air now on Zoom. Okay. Fine.
So and it was was a perfect day, really. It wasn't too warm. It was rather chilled in the morning when we got started, but it was
in April about.
yeah, I think it was in April. It was about 2 weeks before Top Gun in April. I never finish a project too soon. In other words, I'm always at the last minute trying to get something finished. So we were there just a couple weeks before Top Gun. And this project, I had already designated that we were going to fly it in team at Top Gun. And I was going to go ahead and fly the large T-34 in Expert. So this would be, 2013, I believe. I have the Contronics unit that's in this airplane has a Bluetooth. So it reads out the voltage. It'll read out the remaining battery voltage. It reads out the temperature of the motor itself. And like I say, it's a Contronics unit and it's geared 4-to-1.
So when it sounds like a turbine.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit like a turbine because of the gear, and it's helical gears in it. Air operated retracts and air operated brakes. Yeah, gear doors are air, and I think he's going to do a flyby here with just the gear down with the flap function, because that is part of the dirty flyby is part of the required maneuvers at Top Gun. So we tried to go through all the maneuvers that we were going to fly there at Top Gun. Frank's a very accomplished pilot. I've known Frank for 40 years. When he lived here in Dayton, in the Dayton, Ohio area. Now Frank is the representative for JR Propo, JR USA. He is the team manager and the marketing representative for JR in the United States. I think we flew the airplane 3 times that day. This is my first electric airplane. There's a Chandelle. And the most difficulty I had was learning the proper charging and discharging and proper care of the batteries. I had never gotten into any of that before, so it was a learning experience for me as far as the batteries go. He'll stay up, and I think he does a descending 360.
How many maneuvers you have to do with multi-engine?
And of course, the multi-engine function counts as a flight maneuver also. Yeah, that's difficult to see there. When we set the airplane up, a gentleman from Horizon Hobby helped me with the setup of the motors, electric motors, and to pick the right propeller. I told him that I wanted the airplane to fly about 80 miles an hour, the model speed, and it does have a GPS as a function on the airplane too. But so we set the propellers to achieve that speed with the airplane at full power, and then we work backwards because the King Air would normally cruise at about 240 to 260. So we set that at our target speed for full power at 80 miles an hour in the model.
What scale is it?
And it's 25% is the scale. Frank has put it through quite a few maneuvers over the years that we've flown the model together. We've rolled it, we've looped it, we've done all the stuff that a King Air is not supposed to do. I've stalled it and spun it inadvertently at DeLand last year in Florida. On a very cloudy day, I kind of got a little bit slow at the top of the chandelle, and it actually spun 1.5 turns, and I recovered. I think he has the landing gear down here, and I think this will be the first landing. No, maybe not. We've stretched the flight time at different times depending on the newness of the batteries. To the longest flight time we've had is 14 minutes, with still 22% battery life left. So the propeller and the motor are pretty well matched to give us max flight time. If we were running the audio of the event there, of the test flight, you'll hear me after this landing. I'm pretty happy.
It does have brakes.
And yeah, it does have brakes. So he slows it down, the braking there. So that was the very first flight of the King Air. And as we pan around, you'll see that we didn't have a huge crowd there to observe the first flight, but we had quite a few people there. And you'll notice that the propellers are rotating the same direction, much as the prototype would, but I've since changed that a bit. Okay. So
there we go. So quite an impressive test flight.
it went very well. We're extremely happy.
Yeah. And then I think now, shall we go to the VT of the interview that you did with Mike Chilson? So that gives a bit more background about the build.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, Roger, if you can play that one with audio.
With the audio. Good. Okay.
We'll keep you right there.
There we go.
Yeah.
The Dino DiGiorgio Memorial Fly-In here in Ball Ground, Georgia, and I brought my King Air. And a lot of people have asked me about, what airplane is it and everything like that. So I'm going to explain it. This is a Beechcraft King Air, and it's a C90, and it's the A model. So it was one of the first ones built. And I'll talk a little bit about the color scheme. It's navy. And the unusual thing, this is called a heritage paint scheme. And this paint scheme replicates the 1914 flight, the first flight across the Atlantic of a Curtiss pusher airplane, twin-engine Curtiss airplane across the Atlantic. And it was the first Navy plane to fly across the Atlantic. They actually started off with 4 of them, and this airplane, number 4, as you see on the fuselage, was the only airplane to make it, the number 4 airplane. But a little bit about it, it's a 155-inch wingspan, it weighs 60 pounds, it is powered with geared 4-to-1 electric motors. They're Contronic motors. It has a Contronic 300 amp speed controller. And I fly it with 4 6S 5500 batteries in each nacelle. So there's 4 batteries in each nacelle, 2 in series, 2 in parallel, and that puts out about 44 volts each nacelle, okay? Duration, the flight duration is about 14 minutes. We've flown it 14 minutes before, no problem. I have Robart retracts. They're air-operated retracts. The airplane started off with a Bob Patton. It's a Bob Patton design. Bob made the molds for the fuselage, and I laid them up. Also, the wings are styrofoam, sheeted, fiberglassed, and painted. The unique thing is the wing tubes for the outboard panels run all the way through the nacelles and behind the landing gear to help support the landing gear. The aluminum tubes go all the way across to help support that. Another feature is the motors, because they're electric, are light. So I don't have that, you notice how far the nacelles stick out, so I don't have that big leverage system in the front, because I'll show you here, when I open the nacelle, okay, the batteries go in here, but you can see that I shoved the batteries all the way back, so they're here, so they're real close to the CG. So the CG does not change very much at all with the 15 pounds of batteries. So there's 7.5 pounds of batteries on each side. Like I say, the flight duration is about 14 minutes, steadily 14 minutes. All the linkages are internal. There's no control arms or anything visible. I don't have a totally finished cockpit because I kind of just, after 2 years of work, I just kind of got tired of working on it. And then if you come around,
That's never happened.
the radio system is here in the hatch. Okay, so I have a air gauge, I have a switch for the lights, I have a switch for the receiver, and then the servos run off the separate battery pack. And there's my retract air and my brake air. I do have brakes on it. And in the front, all the batteries are right up here in this nose. But the surprising thing is there's only 10 ounces of weight on that nose at the balance point. So it's nice, easy rotation, quick rotation if you're in a short field. And the brakes, because if we do fly up a short field, I need the brakes to stop it. The props are 21.5 with a 16 pitch, and you can dial the pitch. So we've worked it backwards for the most efficient battery operation to the engine at the 16 pitch, and that creates a real nice scale speed if you work that backwards like that. So it's been a great airplane. It's been to Top Gun, it's been to the U.S. Nationals, it's been to the NASA Scale Classic, and I'm real happy with it. This year I've flown it in team competition with Frank Knoll, and the only reason, I'm not afraid to fly it, the only reason that is, Frank and I have flown in team for about 4 years, and we've always finished second. So I finally built an airplane that we can win with. So we did. We finished first place in all the contests we've flown in team with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, thanks for telling us about it. I'm going to do a little walk around and show the guys the detail you did to it.
Okay.
It's an amazing model, and it's a real honor to get to see it.
Well, thank you. All
right.
I appreciate it. I'll put the flaps down so you can take a look.
Okay, super. Okay, guys, we're just going to pan around here and let you look at this. This is an incredible model. I know you've probably seen pictures of it in the magazines, but it really doesn't do justice unless you can see it in real life. It's an incredible airplane. The detail is just incredible. Mike did a fabulous job finishing it. The anniversary scheme looks fantastic, makes it easy to see. We'll back up here and let you see the whole thing. All right, that's it. Okay, guys, thanks for watching.
Okay, and thanks to, that's Mike Chilson there speaking there from the RC Scale Builder website, which if any of you aren't members or don't log in, then I would thoroughly recommend it. There's a few guys on here that post regularly. That's how we keep tabs on Richard Crapp and see what he's doing. all the time. And there's others on it as well. So Mike, back to you. Sort of, can you give a bit of background on why it was that you decided to build the King Air? And then also, you told me something a couple of weeks ago where I didn't know that the original aircraft actually flew with petrol engines. So just a bit about that, and then the switch to electric.
Yeah, well, early on when I started in the hobby, my father was very influential. He was a bomber pilot. He flew B-29s in World War II. And I built every airplane that he flew. I even built the B-29 and flew it in competition for a number of years, 4 or 5 years. But when Bob Patton is a very good designer, I am not a designer myself. I'm working on a project that I'm going to design my next model, but I'm not a designer, a true designer. So I like to take somebody's work, their kit or their plans and that, and then just kind of do it my way. And that's how the King Air came about. Bob, actually, I worked with Bob. He made the molds and the plug, and I laid my fuselage up and my nacelles up with using his molds, and Bob's been very good at that. The T-34 is one of Bob's models. The Wildcat, the 33% Wildcat was one of Bob's models that I built, and the C model T-34. So I've kind of followed Bob and built some of his airplanes. I've never had a problem with the flight characteristics of any of his planes. So anyway, back to the original model. I was about 40% finished with this when Bob test flew his airplane. And when Bob test flew it, he flew it with 2 50cc petrol engines, okay? 2 gas engines. And the first flight went beautiful, much like my test flight with the electric motors. The landing was very, very good and everything. It went very well. The second flight, however, upon landing, Bob was about 4 feet off the ground, maybe 3 feet off the ground, and the airplane stalled. And when it stalled, it hit and it broke both the nacelles off right here at the front, at the leading edge of the wing. Both the nacelles were completely broke off. Well, Bob isn't a very patient person. That's probably why we get along, because when I get one of his projects or get one of his model designs, I just build it. I don't bother him with how you do this or how do you do that. So we get along very well. So Bob looked at me and said, I'm done. I'm not going to rebuild it. I'm not going to do anything with it. What are you going to do with yours? Well, then I really had to stop and think. And about a week later, I decided, and thanks to the helicopter, the large scale helicopter guys, I found a large electric motor that would power this airplane, or 2 of them. So I just converted mine to electric, and I'll show you a couple things why this worked so well. Number one, you can see the size of the firewall. It's about 3/8 inch plywood. You can see the motor mount that comes with the Contronics motor and as the helical gears here. And also here, after I started working on it, I found that I could put these battery packs almost to the wing tube on the spar. So those factors led me to go on, continue the project, do the weight and balance and everything. The weight and balance was simple, just like I explained in the interview there, or during the test flight. The nose wheel has about 10 ounces of weight on it, and that's it. So it's an easy for rotation and everything else. This was my first electric model, and like I said, the most difficult thing I had is to learn how to treat these batteries, how to charge them, how to discharge them, how to store them correctly, and everything. And also, if Carl could come over here, there is the ECU unit in the bottom of the nacelle, okay, in front of the batteries, between the motor and the batteries. And if you come around in front, you'll see how the large opening, air opening in the bottom of the nacelle goes right across the heat sink of the ECU. So I've never had a problem, even with full power operation, for heating up the motor, the engine. And here is the ECU. It's 200 amp. It's a standard Contronic unit. And the heat sink, this part of the heat sink, is what sticks through the bottom of the nacelle. I do have a couple NACA scoops on here for cooling. The exhaust, the fake exhaust here for the turbine, help for cooling also. And the Contronic unit is, you're able to program it so I get a single engine start and then the second engine start. And of course, there are no brakes on it, so it does freewheel. But on landings, the props will not stop. Because of that start system, I have it set at 400 RPM for each engine, so it never goes below 400 RPM. So you'll see some electrics where you throttle back and the motors will just stop. Well, these will not freewheel, but they will continue to generate a little bit of thrust even at 400 RPM. So that's another factor that helped me decide on the Contronic motors and ESC, BEC unit. So you see how the batteries fit right in here. And if Carl comes around here, on the back of the firewall, you'll see the Bluetooth unit for the motor. Everything else is basically standard. I made a mold to do the pop out, the bubble out windows.
This center section will come off, won't it?
Yeah, the center section is removable, although I transport it. If it's not on this cart, I transport it on the landing gear most of the time. But the center section is removable, and the radio system and everything is right on the center section. Now, I do have a hatch in the center of the airplane that I can service the radio equipment to. There's a hatch in the center that folds down, and it's held on with a magnet. A couple of the fun things that I did, I have the windshield wipers I made out of brass. Those were fun. They're very prominent on the full-scale airplane. That's why I had to duplicate them. And then, as you saw in the video, the radio operation systems are right here. Robart, I designed the landing gear, and Robart helped me with the completion of it. All the linkages are hidden, especially back here. Yeah, you can get a shot of the landing gear. And it does have brakes. Those are 5.5-inch wheels on it.
Were they carriage, you were saying, or wheelchair?
No, these are regular Robart wheels. Yeah, tires and wheels.
Oh, those were on the T-34. Okay.
And then back here, for the linkage system, for the elevators, it's much like the old system we used to use, where we ran a rod this way and then this way with a bell crank on it. And this has its own servo independent of this side. And then, of course, the rudder function is same on a push rod down, a long push rod welded to a bar that operates that. With all the servos are mounted right here. There's three servos mounted across here, and the push rods are carbon fiber, and they're about this long. So the push rods are here, and then the cables run to the front.
Now, if we come over, I'll show you a little section of the wing. And I've been asked a lot of times if this door operates. No, it doesn't. It does not. However, I spent a long time trying to carve that handle.
He's got a protruding handle right there, which is so cool.
So
One of the things I got to show detail here before we go too far. This is actually on the real one, the crinkle.
yeah.
And it's just the detail is incredible. Okay.
So here, from my giant scale racing days, I used the same aileron control system that I used back then. If Carl can get a shot, it's a rod that goes into the aileron in a carbon fiber tube, and it's operated with a servo like this, a straight rod. Now I'll show you, here's a servo. This system's going in the P47. This is the same system, okay? When the servo moves down, it moves the control surface up like that. When this moves up, it moves the control surface down. The important thing is that these two units, the aluminum tube and the carbon fiber tube, be very tight, because at this centered position, you cannot move this. You cannot move this unit with the system. Then the flap system is a standard system with a single servo and then a push rod here for the flaps. Now, on this particular model, I use the Robart Fowler flap system. There's 2 Fowler hinges on this, one on each side, and the same with the center section. The center section has a flap the same way. Now, a lot of people have asked me about the corrugations on the model here. Beechcraft was very, they used the corrugations on part of most of their trainers and that. The way I did this was, this is a piece of carbon fiber that I laminated in the control surface while I was building it. The control surface is balsa. Then I have a piece of carbon fiber veil that I laminated on top of the first treatment of the skin, on top of the balsa, and then I used my fiberglassing technique of fiberglass cloth, which is 1.5 ounce cloth, and then the fiberglass. Then I took a router and I set up a gauge and I routed these out. The trick was that I routed them just deep enough that I was down to the carbon fiber veil. And when I got to there, I stopped and I used a little bit of automotive primer on my finger, and I filled these in one time, and then it was ready to sand and prime and then paint. So that's how these corrugations were formed. The same with the corrugations on the tail are the same way. The rivets details on this are done with the glue drops. The hatches are done with manila envelope, just enough to do the hatch. The Zeus fasteners that you see here are the rub-on type accent from what was the gentleman's name in Promark Graphics, and he did the. Of course, the markings are painted, and he also did the masking for me. And that's about it. And the wing is styrofoam, sheeted with 16th balsa wood. And then I always fix the tube in in either the inboard panel or the outboard panel. I've been notorious for going to a contest and leaving the tube at home.
Yeah.
So to avoid that, I just fix the tube in, and then this is fastened. The tube slides into the center section, and then at the center section, I have a plywood plate that this is bolted through, and then the anti-rotation pin is here in the front. So this fastens the wing in tight, and there's the anti-rotation pin. On the wingtip, I do have lights, okay, a light system. This is made from, laid it up from a mold, and then the lenses are vacuum formed. I do have a vacuum form machine that I use quite often. So the lenses were vacuum formed, and then these were fiberglass on the tips. So we can take a closer look here at the my next project. Like I said, I'm going to use the Contronic system. This is the way it comes, and the helicopter builders mount this system like this, of course, and then mount their blades on it. I saw the system and I thought, well, this is going to work fine. This is equivalent to about a 60 cc petrol engine. Okay, this setup, the way it's set up, it'll, like I said in the video, it'll turn this is a 21.5 with a 16 pitch 3-blade prop. And I also thought I'd show you, these are the Vario propellers. And I had a brief discussion when we did a test of this earlier. This is the pitch gauge that comes with it. And you set this dial on the inside of the unit that this fastens, and then you can dial in the pitch. And like I say, this is about a 16 pitch, so it would be about like that on the setup. And then you go blade by blade all the way around till you get them all set up. And then I found that I didn't trust the gauge. The gauge is a little bit difficult to read. So I laid everything down flat, and I did some physical measurements after I set it up for the first time. I have converted this to counter rotation. Okay, this one rotates to the left, and that one rotates to the right. Much easier on takeoffs. Much easier. The airplane had a very, very strong pull to the right, of course, on takeoff before I did this. The airplane weighs 60 pounds, weighs 75 pounds with the battery. And it's very docile. It really is. It's a very nice airplane, very docile, easy to fly. So that's about it. Are there any questions?
No, that's great, Mike. Should we play the VT of your flight at DeLand now?
Okay, good.
We'll fire that one in. So VT3, please, Roger.
This is the NASA Scale Championships, the NASA Classic, we call it, at DeLand, Florida last year. We had a terribly rainy day the first day, and then we did all our flying on Sunday. Now this video of the Corsair is in here because I was actually asked to fly a test flight of this Corsair there. So this is my test flight of the Corsair. The gentleman that brought it from from Florida. I fly with him in Florida, and he just asked me to do a quick hot test flight. That's a Moki 250. And then I think very nice flying airplane. I like the paint job that he chose, the Lucky Gallon racing job. And that went well. That was the first time I'd ever flown the airplane, but it did go well. And I think the flying sight at DeLand was interesting. All the time we flew here, oh, there's my Stearman. I flew that in the fun scale part. Oh, this is just a brief flight of the Stearman. This is one of my favorite airplanes, and my first airplane ride when I was 7 years old, my father gave me a ride in his friend's Stearman. So it's always been near and dear to my heart, that airplane. That's an Evolution 160 petrol engine. One third scale. Quite windy that day. And I think the flight is King Air flight. There you go. That's a takeoff flat position there. This is the mandatory flyby. Very cloudy day. Yeah, I needed the yellow wings that day. This is the slow flyby. Full flap. And then I believe that this is the landing. Landing light is on. Yep. 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 There you go. Somebody liked it. Okay.
Yeah, see, I've only ever seen it fly in the bright sunshine of Florida, so that it definitely is more of a challenge in that sky.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we run your final VT then, which is just the workshop?
Yeah, let's do that.
Go
Yeah.
through the workshop, and then are you going to speak over the top of that as well, or?
I would. Well,
Yeah.
you can use the audio that I did while I was walking, if you like.
Yeah, we'll just go with the audio and the VT then.
Okay, good.
Give
Okay,
you a rest.
Yeah, give me a rest. Thank you. Okay, now watch it. Yeah, we can just... Good evening or good morning, everybody. Whatever the case may be, this is Mike Barbee. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of the monster hangar. If you come into the hangar through the house,
you'll come down this stairway, and I found a place to pile up some of my awards. And here's a picture of the young lad back in the 70s and early 80s flying pattern. We have some trophies here from the giant scale racing days. I raced a T6 and a GB Thompson Trophy in the Thompson races. Some of the other awards are from Top Gun. Some of the awards from just various things. There's team scale from the national championships. I think that's with the King Air. You'll see that pretty soon, or it could be with the T-34. And we come on down to the next level down, and we'll see here on this wall. I have some pictures of my Aranka Chief and the award that I won at Oshkosh in 2011. That picture of the Chief on the takeoff was the first flight after the rebuild. And then this one is a friend of mine when we flew together to Oshkosh, and we're on our way there. A couple of the other ones are, here's a collage of pictures of radio control and of the Chief and flying. Picture there of my property and the house, Barb and I's house, Dino DiGiorgio memorial event, and a couple more pictures of the Chief. This section is kind of cluttered. Everything's cluttered, really, because there's my vacuum form machine, and I have a mill and a lathe hidden back there, which will be placed in this area when I get going on my other project. This side was to be designated as a game room, but there's a nice pool table there. But so then we have some props and some other things here, some posters, and I have a picture here of the gentleman that got the whole thing started. As you're looking at it on the far right, back row, that's my father, David, with his crew, the B-29 crew. He was the pilot, and for years I remember those guys hanging together and staying in touch at Christmas and all that. They were a real close-knit group. I learned a lot from him, from building rubber band airplanes. He never did fly radio control with me. He just enjoyed watching me fly, so that was it. And my first like I said, my first airplane ride, and then I do have another job related to flying. I fly this blimp at the hockey games. It's quite large. I think it's 34 feet long, and we fly it around the arena indoors, and I fly about 30 games a season for the hockey team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we just have some pieces and parts there for the P-47. Here's my wing for the P-47, and I've switched radio systems. I'm flying JR now. That's my new radio. This weekend I gave it a true test. I went to the jet rally in Virginia, and I flew my C-114, the Snowbird scheme here, and we had a great time, great event. It's actually the first event that I've flown in this year because of the COVID-19 thing. And there's the cockpit out of it. I got to do a little work on the landing gear. I have a sequencer in there that acts up from time to time, so I'm going to remedy that. So that's it. That's about the walk around of the shop.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mike, for the insight. I mean, I've spoken with you loads over the years, but it's good to actually see inside the monster hangar.
Yeah, yeah.
And so over to everyone now. Are there any questions? There is one that Martin Kinder was asking, and it's basically about the setup of NASA. So is NASA a subset of the AMA, or is it totally independent?
No, NASA is the special interest group of the AMA, and we're in charge of radio control scale and control line scale. So all the scale rules and rule changes, the committees and everything are through NASA, and like a special interest group in conjunction with the AMA. That's our job.
So the free flight side, does that sit with a different group?
No, any scale activity is with our group. Free flight,
Yeah.
Free flight scale, helicopter scale, any scale discipline is under our auspices.
Right.
Including control line.
Yeah. And do you still have your rubber-powered chief as well?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Because Mike Stewart that's on here, is it built from the Comet kit?
Yes, it's built from the Comet. Yes.
Yeah. Mike Stewart that's on. Which one was it? Was it Taylorcraft that you had, Mike? If you want, you can if you unmute yourself, Mike.
Yeah, I did the Taylorcraft, and Richard Crossley did the chief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got them flying indoors.
Oh, great.
They're very impressive, the speed that they basically walk around at.
We both got the weight under 200 grams, including the rubber motor.
Oh, mine's nowhere close to that. I build it like I build a radio control airplane. Built to last.
Mike also has a rubber-powered King Air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it flies very well though, Mike, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's I can show you some pictures if I can share a screen. I don't know if we've got time, but anyway, it's a
yeah, certainly if you want to.
It shouldn't take long.
What I'll do is I'll ask a couple more of the questions just while you're finding the thing. So from Chris Armitage, so he's saying he's been a keen JR user for years, but there's a belief that JR is no more in the UK. Has JR started again?
Yes, they've started again. Yeah, they're back in production and everything. So they've started everything again, and they will be available in the UK.
Cool. And then from Danny Fenton, the RCM&E scale columnist. So he's asking what paint that you used in the King Air.
Oh, it's base coat, clear coat, automotive. It's all automotive.
PPG.
Yeah, PPG is the type of paint, and I've worked with the local supplier pretty well. He does a good match job with the FS numbers and everything, and so it's all PPG.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Mr. Pallister, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, it's just having worked alongside King Airs for many years at Cranwell before they retired them, I noticed that the polished spinners are very characteristic there. How did you actually fabricate the shape and the finish on those?
Actually, a good friend of mine, a machinist, he actually made them, turned them, and then I just lightly wet sanded them and polished them with some Mother's polishing compound. So that's what we ended up with. I was a little disappointed. They working with them, they came slightly smaller than what I wanted. You know, I guess he was working on the spinners while I was working on the nacelles, and I think I made the nacelle a little bit larger than I thought it was going to turn out. I gave him a specific dimension for the spinners, and then I ended up just a little bit larger with the nacelle. So I was a little disappointed there, but yeah, these are hand tooled. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There we go. Mike Stewart's just shared his screen there of an image of his King Air. I don't know if you can see it there, Mike and Carl.
Yeah, I can see it. That's a 200.
Yeah. It's a 40-inch wingspan, weighs 109 grams only, without the rubber motors in it.
Oh, that's
beautiful.
Yeah, that really
just
does.
1/16 balsa structure.
Oh wow, yeah. I toyed with the idea for the 200 when I first started it, and then I was a little worried about the cantilever tail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you wanted to keep it down. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's done a minute outdoors. Use quite long motors, about 3 times the distance between the peg and the hook on the prop, so you can get about 1,500 winds on each side.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
And you have to keep a very careful count on the turns you put on, obviously.
I've experienced that.
Yeah. Yeah, this man is someone who could challenge Dave Platt at Top Gun.
There we go.
There we go.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Was this the one that you lost at Port Meadow?
No, that was a different one. Yeah, I lost a twin rubber model in a thermal. It was very annoying.
Oh God.
There was several models lost that day, but I have to say that was a magnificent flight for a twin free flight scale rubber pad model. How many minutes out of sight was it?
4.5, I think.
Yeah. It's a shame we didn't get that at Geneseo, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Mike has won canonas at Geneseo with his model.
Yeah. There is a little video. I don't know if it would play. It depends on how good my broadband is. Just a short one here. See if you can see this.
Watch it.
Oh, very nice.
This wasn't anywhere near full winds. It was just a little test flight. Gives you an idea. Wow. I'm looking forward to getting back to Old Warden one of these days. It's a lovely place.
That is awesome.
That is awesome, yeah. Very good. Very good. Very good.
There we go. We've got a request, Mike, for you to show us your Comet Ironka Chief if you can get to it.
Stay right there, Carl. I'll be right back. Just on the other side.
So we can see how that Mike goes from the full spectrum, right from the rubber powered through the big radial models to the full scale. There we go.
It's the same color combination as my full scale. Yeah. Needs a little bit of repair right here.
We won't say what your longest flight has been on it yet so far, though, will we?
No, I'm not. It's like, oh, that's it. Or it's like, that's it. You want to see it again?
It's a head turner.
It was a nice, relaxing winter project. Let me put it that way.
Anyone else got some questions for Mike? I know Nigel has been speaking. Well, Nigel was speaking with you on Monday evening.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's
Hi, Mike.
learning all about the twin electrics now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike? What was the motor? The motor gearbox setup? That wasn't Contronic, was it? That was another manufacturer.
No, that's Contronic.
Oh, that is Contronic as well.
Yeah, the whole
that unit. Yeah.
The whole unit is Contronic.
Grab the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Speedo as well. Yeah, that's all Contronic.
Yeah, and the ESC. Yeah, it's all Contronic. Yep.
Mike, it's Dave Wrigley here with a question.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. Question for you on the corrugations on the wing. You mentioned the carbon fiber veil and then glassing over that. The carbon fiber veil was on the inside of the sheet, and then okay, I get you. And how thick a material did you use?
Well, it's almost like tissue paper. The carbon
No,
fiber.
I know what you mean about the veil. I'm talking about the balsa. How thick was the balsa?
The balsa is 1/8.
Okay.
On the surface.
So you'd route that those corrugations are about 1/8 of an inch deep, right?
Yes. And I routed them after I glassed it. In other words, it made the cut nice and crisp on each of them. Yeah.
Yep. Nice. Looks great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very convincing. Thanks, Mike.
I didn't see you sneak in there, Mr. Wigley.
I was on my desktop because it doesn't have a camera, and now I'm on my iPhone. But I'm in stealth mode.
Nice to see you.
You too. Nice presentation, Mike. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Doug Hunt is asking, what is your full-scale project that you're about to embark on?
Oh, okay. The two airplanes that I've rebuilt so far have both been fabric covered. And at Oshkosh last year, I was at the RANS. It's a RANS S21. They call it an outbound. And it's an all aluminum airplane. It comes all pre-drilled, pre-deburred, ready to assemble. And they give an assembly time of about 600 hours for someone that's never built an airplane. So I'm kind of excited about it. It's going to be a little more powerful than the other two that I'm flying currently. It's going to have the Continental Titan engine. It's 300 cubic inch, and it'll develop 150 horsepower. So I may even go with a constant speed prop and a few other goodies that I'm not used to. I'm not going to build it full IFR. I'm a VFR pilot, but it'll have a nice panel in it and a nice GPS and everything in it. So I'm kind of excited about it.
And then you're saying your next project, sort of scale-wise, you're finishing off a couple of P47s at the moment. I can see one of them in the background.
Yeah, the two P40. Mine will be ready to fly by the end of this month, and the other P47 goes to a gentleman in Texas. And then I have the plans here for my next project. It's going to be an OV1 Mohawk, and I'm going to the wingspan is going to be about 158 inches. I've done the plans on this one myself with the help of Dave Platt. Years ago, Dave Platt flew one of these at Top Gun, way back when we flew at the polo field. And I love that airplane. I've seen it. I've only seen one fly in air shows. I've only seen one fly at Oshkosh. I didn't see any of them when on my tour in Vietnam. But I did see the one airplane fly at Oshkosh, and I just love the airplane. It'll be all built up. I'm not going to make a mold or fiberglass. I'm going to just do a build-up fuselage, fiberglass, and paint it. and I'm going to use the Contronics. This lends itself perfect to the design of the airplane. So I'm going with the electric units.
Yeah, as we chatted a few weeks ago, the Mohawk's been a favourite of mine for a long while. So I, for one, am definitely looking forward to seeing it. But I'm sure I won't be the only one. A question from George Kandelakis in Greece, or he's in Germany at the moment, but originally from Greece. How many members does NASA have?
Currently, we have 285 members, but the funny thing is we have about 6,000 followers on Facebook. So we wish we could convert them to paying members, but that hasn't happened yet. So we're about 250 in the United States here. Yeah, and we have some overseas also.
Danny, do you want to ask your question?
There we go. No, it was just an observation, I think. Dave Platt flew on that control line scale, I think. Neonovi, was that a Mohawk?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he also built 2 radio control.
Okay. Yeah. So no, it's brilliant. No, when I saw it, it was fabulous. And the thing that really stood out to me was that the windscreen was dirty, and he put the wiper marks onto the perspex. That just tickled me. It was fabulous. I loved it.
Don't expect it out of me.
I am.
Hey, I like them shiny. I do. It breaks my heart to weather it. I haven't even started the weathering on the P-47 yet, but I have to do that.
What's with yellow, Mike? I've got to ask.
Years ago, I built a Tiger Moth and flew it at Top Gun. And a gentleman was photographing the models. And he came back to my model about 3 or 4 times that day. And I asked him, I said, this is my 3rd Top Gun. This is just average. And why are you taking so many pictures? He said, yellow airplanes take the best. So
absolutely.
That's me in yellow right there. A good friend of mine, John Boyko, built a beautiful half-scale Pitts, and was getting ready to do the paint work on it. And he came to the shop, and we discussed it. And I said, you can paint it any color you want, as long as it's yellow. and that airplane has been on magazine covers. It's on the cover. It's on the cover of the AMA rules guide, even. So it is just, and guess what? I'm 73 years old. I can see yellow a lot better. That's another reason.
Yeah. A friend of mine races dinghies, sailing dinghies. And he paints his yellow because he needs sponsorship. And he always told me it's a prominent one. Your photographers will flock around you, and you'll get the brand name out there. So he always does his yellow. But no, it's interesting that. Thank you.
Doug, over to you. Would you like to ask your question? Oh, you'll need to unmute yourself. There we go.
I've got unmute already.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I was unmuted actually. Anyway, Mike, I was asking, because we talked about the NASA specialist group, and we talked about it including free flight. Over here in the UK, of course, we fly quite a lot of free flight with IC power and electric, as well as the rubber. Do you have much interest in those forms of power over in the US?
Not yet. Not yet. They haven't. Mostly it's rubber, and that's it. They have not developed the electric power much over here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Oakley? Oh, can't hear you, David.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Can you hear me
that's
now?
us.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Mike. Thanks for the talk. It's really good. Really enjoyed it. I kind of maintain you always learn a lot from your mistakes. Was there any you made with the King Air? What were they, and how did you correct them? I guess that goes for any model, not just the King Air, I suppose. But
Well,
tail.
well, the biggest mistake I made, and on any given weekend, I'll have 3 or 4 other modelers here doing different projects or working on their stuff, helping them out. And during that whole time, with my 3 views and all the data I had on the airplane, usually it's spread out on the table so I can take a look at it. I built this rudder, and the first contest, the first time out at Top Gun, that's the first thing that the judges saw. I built it wrong. In other words, I had it parallel this way,
going down
to the hinge line. Instead, it went up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I brought it back. We all sat around and we're doing a little critique on it. And sure enough, and the guys then, they were aware. Oh gosh, we overlooked that. Well, guess what I did? I pulled the pin out. I sawed it off, and I put another piece on. And the judges don't pick on me back there anymore. but you know, actually, the most difficult part of this airplane is the radio installation. I have to actually get under it and work up backwards because of the way it's situated in the center of the wing. If I had it to do over again, I think I would make the side door open, and I would put the radio gear in the cargo door there on the side.
Yeah.
Like I did on the T-34. The T-34, the baggage door behind the cockpit opened, and it was very easy to open it and get in and work on it, you know, and that's it. So that's one thing that lacks on this. Now, the P-47 will have a similar radio setup, but I will be able to take the cockpit out. I've designed the cockpit to come out in pieces, and then I'll be able just to, this of course is removable, and then I will be able to go down inside here and work on the radio this way. There's plenty of room this way. And so that is probably the downfall of the King Air that I still kind of suffer with. The airplane is a delight to fly, though. The electric takes away the edginess of flying gas engines, and it has just been a delight to fly. One thing that I kind of labored on is the air retract system. I had difficulty finding the right type of air tubing. The first Top Gun was so hot that if you over pressurized you would blow a tube off. So we had to limit the pressure to like just a little over 100 pounds all the time. If you went just a bit over, it would blow a tube off. Well, I've remedied that. I found some different tubing, and I've reformed the whole system and all that, so I don't have that aggravation anymore. But that was part of the learning experience with the large. The air cylinders to power that gear are about 1.25 inches diameter, and they're about 6 inches long. So it takes quite a bit of air pressure. There's 4 air tanks in the fuselage, and it takes quite a bit of air pressure. And I was always maybe over anxious to get enough in there and put a full 120 or 140 pounds of air in it. And I noticed that because the fuselage is sealed up and it's gray, dark gray, and it kind of attracts the heat. It gets very hot inside, so I experience the lines coming off. So,
you must be psychic, Mike. So just going to ask about the retracts, whether they're air or not, and where the bottles were. Can you get at those easy as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Carl, if you've changed the position of your finger, if you've gone over the microphone of the iPad.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So the bottles
That's
are
better.
the bottles are right here, and on the inside. You might be able to get it. Yeah. And there's 4. The small one that's in there just operates the brakes. But and I've learned, if I have a problem in competition with the retracts, I can normally fix it at the field. If I have electric retracts, it is very difficult to carry enough parts, pieces, and everything to be able to service them. So I've stuck with the air. Even my P47 will have air in it. The other gentlemen's that I'm building will have the electric. But I've just gotten used to the fact that there are different types of airlines, and you got to use the best in order to ensure regular and efficient operation.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I've got a quick question about the batteries. Well, it's a kind of loaded question because I know part of the answer. Have you had any issues with the charging of the batteries?
Yeah, I've had fires.
Explosions.
I've had explosions. I found I use the ProTech AccuCharger. It's a very good charger, and they set it up now on a system where you actually have a chip on the battery, and you show the chip across a scanner on the charger, and it dials in the correct amperage, the correct time, and everything. It's kind of foolproof now that I've got it working correctly. But I have had some problems with the battery, and this is my first electric model, so
Yeah.
I've only burnt one garage down in the meantime.
No, you didn't.
And I'm not allowed to charge them in the house or the shop.
Yeah.
They all have to be charged outside or in a bunker someplace. So.
Can I ask a quick question? How many receivers has it got?
I only have one receiver in this model.
Okay.
Yep.
How many channels?
16 channel Futaba.
Are you going to swap that over to JR now?
No, I'm not. Not right now.
That's a job.
It would be, like Carl said, it'd be a real job. Maybe next year early on, take the fuselage off and then service everything inside. Normally, I work what I can every year, doing my annual check of all the functions and everything, and connections and all that. And I've already completed that, so I'm just going to kind of leave it this year, and then next year I'll go to. I've got a dispensation to fly this with the Futaba equipment again for one more year, so
okay,
I'm going to do that.
It also means that Frank won't have a shot of it, will he? Because he can't be seen flying with a Futaba transmitter, can he?
No, he had to get special permission last year to do it because he was in negotiation with.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so he had to get a special permission. So, but I am real confident in the JR equipment that I've set up so far. A lot of guys are disappointed that I've switched because I get a lot of phone calls. How do I program this? How do I program that? And I guess they think that because I've just switched to JR, I'm going to get brainwashed and not be able to work on Futaba. But believe me, for 29 years of operating Futaba equipment, I will not forget how to operate it. So.
Great.
I've just switched the other way from JR to Futaba.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah. Good for you.
Well, stay right there. I'll be right back.
All right, he's coming back.
Right
Just flew this last weekend.
Part of the tour of the shop, I don't think I showed this, but I have a contender designed by Dave Platt, and this is the second radio that I've ever owned, the Craft single stick. I flew single stick for years, and a gentleman in our club converted it to 2.4. So I have an antique contender with an Enya 45 engine and Craft single stick radio. One of my first radios right there. And this is fun. That's fun.
Do we have any other questions for Mike?
Have you got a regulator in your electric setup, Mike? And which one, if you have, which one do you trust?
No, I don't. I fly 6 life batteries for the radio system, and the other unit is just through the. I do not use the BEC with it. In other words, the motor system is totally separate from the radio system in the King Air. So,
but you've got a direct connection into your into your servos
yes.
with your radio battery.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I run. Electrodynamics makes a unit that you can draw battery power directly to the servos, and that's the unit I run. So I run 6.6 volt life batteries, and then I'll run a 5,000 milliamp pack for the 12 servos in this, and I'll run a 2,500 milliamp pack for just the receiver and the gyro. I do have a gyro in this airplane.
Okay, thanks.
Brilliant. Well, that seems about it, Mike. So I must thank you very much for me. I really appreciate the fact that you're the first sort of non-UK based guy leading one of the presentations. So there'll be a few more.
Good.
Yeah, fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and looking at the faces of the other people as we were going through, then they've really enjoyed it as well. So thanks very much, Mike.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, not at all. And well, in 2 weeks' time, we go rather different, because we go from the £60, the £75 model, and we're doing it's a presentation with Doug Hunt leading on free flight indoor.
Oh, good. Oh, great.
So we'll go to the other end of the spectrum.
Good.
So look out for the details. All of you that have come on tonight, you'll get the email in the usual way. And thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.